Awaken with JP, if you are familiar with Awaken with JP's channel, he is a very funny creator. Awesome. I love his content. Hold on. Let me make sure that I'm good here. Okay. I love this guy's content. He is hilarious. He is very satirical, and it's just awesome to point out the hypocrisy of the left and wokeness. And he put out a video that is incredible, and I think it's worth you watching it. But essentially, he discusses how he used to be spiritual, like the New Age spirituality. And it was through the blatant evil and darkness that we are seeing the push for tyranny, the push for communism, all of the woke monster that's awakened in our culture, that kind of got him to realize that maybe there's something to good and evil and Satan and God. Very interesting stuff.
Communists have their number one objective to disconnect people from God, where they ban religions. And of course, right now it's more like discouraging it, shaming it. But with full-on communism, they ban religion. Why is that? Because they don't want people having faith in a real higher power. So if you can get people to disconnect from God, if you get people to disconnect from the teachings of God and the ways of God, the belief in God, then those communists get to be your higher power. And honestly, they make a crappy higher power. They don't even make good fertilizer. That's not a good substitute for God. But for people who want to control you, which is what evil is, anytime someone tries to control you in a way that's not in your best interest, that's what I call evil. So for the force of evil, that is communism, wanting to control you, they realize people who have a faith in a real higher power, God, they're not controllable. So we have to become their higher power. We need them to depend on us, not depending on their faith in God, but that we need them to depend on us, need us, be obedient to us, or else communism just doesn't work. And even when that happens, it still doesn't work, but nonetheless. Now, there's a lot I don't know, but one thing I do know is when you have faith in God, you are not controllable. You're not. The fear-mongering, the fear of death that ultimately all fear-mongering points to, like, hey, the climate's changing, the climate's going to kill you. Hey, look at this disease. Look at the death toll on the bottom of CNN. All that fear-mongering really preys on the fear of death that people have. But here's the deal. When you believe in God, you also therefore believe in the afterlife. You believe in heaven. So you don't really fear death the way you fear death if you believe there is no God. Why? Because you're like, well, okay, if I die, which I don't want to, but if I do, okay, I'm in heaven. That's actually beautiful. So the brave, bold freedom statement of it's better to die on your feet than live on your knees becomes something that people of faith will live by. That's why communists, globalists, anyone who wants to control you purposely tries to disconnect you from God, because God's way is freedom. Evil constricts, God frees. God gives us free will. That's our expression of freedom. That's God's way. Communists don't like that. Globalists don't like that, because God's way makes you uncontrollable to them. And we
love that point so much. It just absolutely perfectly articulates the truth. God frees, evil restricts, or evil constricts. And when you believe in God, you are not controllable. So when we have seen in the past communist regimes rise up, one of the first things that they do is tear down Christianity, tear down religion, and persecute. Why? Because they want to be your God. And therefore, they can't have you worshiping God. You can't do that. No, because then you don't fear them. You don't fear what they can do, because you have the protection of Christ. So, of course, they're going to go and try to destroy that and disconnect you from that. And they do it in lots of different ways. And in our modern time, it's kind of subtle. It's just, it's so interesting how the concept of like, it's better to die standing than live on your knees, and how he connects that to faith in God. Because, and I said this the other day, when I covered the Jeffrey Marsh story initially, Psalm 91. Psalm 91 is everything when it comes to, in the face of fear, if you abide in the shelter or in the shadow of the Almighty, you will be protected. You will have eternal life, and you don't have to fear the evil. You don't have to fear death. Not that we are immune as Christians from all of the bad and evil and sickness and all of the things, but that we see a bigger picture through Christ who strengthens us. We don't have to cave. We don't have to fear. And it's so relevant to what's going on in global politics, where we have like the global elite who is very atheist, or if not atheist, satanic. And it's just like a multifaceted attack on God and on God's people, in so many different ways. So very, very cool. I can relate to his story, his evolution, though I didn't start with the spirituality aspect. I started with the atheism, as a backlash from the pretty superficial understanding that I had as a Christian, growing up, but not really knowing God, not really knowing the Bible, not really understanding what it meant, and then just throwing it all out. So he goes into the fact that sometimes we tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I would look at all the scandals that have happened in the name of religion. I mean, so many wars have been fought based on religion, based on God. There's been so many corrupt scandals. I mean, so many church scandals where it's all about the money. And then, of course, sexual abuse scandals in the Catholic Church. So I would kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, like, oh, dude, that dirty bathwater. Yeah, if that's what Christianity is, screw that. If that's what God is, screw that. Now I have a much more mature look where I do believe evil goes wherever it can. The devil masquerades as an angel of disguise. So if the devil wants to control people, then a good way for the devil to do that is to find people where they're trying to find God. So I think we certainly need good discernment. And just because something claims to be of God, or a church or a person claims to be of God, I think we need discernment, because the devil masquerades as an angel of light. But now what I think is a more mature view, I will discern evil from churches, discern evil from God. So I don't have to throw the God baby out with the bathwater, but rather just throw the bathwater out and keep the God, which seems to be much more empowering.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. I did the same thing when I became an atheist. As you could call it now, a lot of people use this term church hurt, or just like he said, the religious scandals of the Catholic Church, Christians sinning and still proclaiming Christ and all of the things. And I saw that hypocrisy, and I'm like, God isn't real. This whole thing is a joke. But that's foolish. That's foolish. And just like he said, like, discernment. Now I understand with a more mature lens, that evil is real. And of course, Satan is going to try to corrupt followers of God, to corrupt the church, so that that very thing can happen. So everyone can be like, wow, God can't be real if these evil Christians are doing this. So just throw it all out and don't even believe in it. And it's especially interesting when atheists view the religious as especially bad and especially messed up because of the fact that this is a human problem, not a Christian problem or Christians are especially bad. It's a human issue. So it just kind of makes it look like atheists are not as evil or are not as bad. And I could be wrong there, but as an atheist, it's kind of like I had a disdain for the religious even more because they proclaimed something and didn't live up to it. But then that kind of gave me the scapegoat of like, well, I'm a good person, but they're hypocrites, but I'm a good person. Not that we're all hypocrites. And that doesn't actually point to the validity of God, the validity of the resurrection or anything like that.